Well, it's dark here at Bathurst at Mount Panorama in Australia, and it's also Saturday night. That can only mean one thing. It's Night Owl, baby. Welcome back to round number 3 of the 13th season of Night Owl. Hello, everybody. I'm a mildly sunburnt Jesse Lee here with baby metal enthusiast Stewie on cameras and comms for you this evening. It is great to be back. Stewie, it's good to have you back in both vision and sound.
Why did you have to do me like that? All right, yeah. It's actually been a while since I've been on comms. I think it's almost a year by now. So yeah,
It is close, yeah.
it's gonna be fun to be back, especially for a Bathurst race, which, based on the previous races we've had in Night Owl, is definitely not gonna be a boring one. And we still have 32 cars here, which is also pretty good for Night Owl. So yeah, I can't wait to see lap 1.
I think we're all expecting some sort of carnage, and quite interestingly, tonight, apparently, we were just told, you and I hold the keys of the kingdom. We hold the power. A lot of people away this weekend. Ted Edwards away on some sort of romantic interlude somewhere in Britain, so that's good for him. We hope he is doing well, and of course, no live stewarding for this season of Night Owl as well. So what that means is it's you and I. There's no third in the booth tonight. That means if there is a huge calamity on the racetrack, we will be the ones issuing the race restart. That is just for this round. You know, I've held this power before, Stewie, and I can tell you, slightly intoxicating. That's why you have the keys in front of you. But qualifying underway. It was a 15-minute session when we started. We rambled a bit, which means there's only 12 minutes left. Qualifying here, probably ultimately important, more so than most racetracks.
What you're saying is I'm gonna hit the restart until Phil Roberts is P1 after lap 1, right?
I see, this is the part where normally you say that privately to me, and I respond in kind, but now we're both going out. See, now they're gonna think we're actually doing that.
First, Phil has to get a good quality position, and we've already seen here with IPEC. I think he hit 3 or 4 walls on this one, and
Yeah.
one of these actually invalidated the lap, so they are not gonna set a lap this time. But yeah, I mean, Phil was doing actually quite well in practice with the Bentley. He told us before that the esports setup he got from Chris Verstappen was a bit wild, and he had to tame that beast a bit, and that made it actually good to drive. And I think he was in the top 3 of the times in practice, so I'm curious to see where he ends up. Last week it was quite a surprise how well he was doing, I think, for us and for him.
Well, he was actually frustrated too. We were sitting up here in the box, all 3 of us last week were impressed with what Phil Roberts was able to accomplish, and he was absolutely frustrated, knew that he probably could have had more at Watkins Glen. What a wild Watkins Glen race that was. And to your point, you talked about 30 plus cars showing up here to what is a dark qualifying for Bathurst this evening. And well, a lot of drivers, because they do have a drop round in these weekly RCI champs like this one, well, what they'll do is they'll pick the round that they suspect to be the most fruitless, and they will sign out of that one some of the time. That doesn't appear to have happened this evening. Everybody here at the halfway point in the championship showing up. Speaking of the halfway point in the championship, this is going to be the race that's going to likely give us a clearer picture of what the championship as a whole is going to look like. Seville goes to the top of the board, the 97 Ferrari. It's a 2-minute 4.80. Good enough for that pole position for the time being. Timothy Flamger, 3/4 of a second down in P2. A little bit of a margin back to Watson in 3rd place, of course, and a little bit more to Olivier Kierton in 4th place. It's really close. You've got Daly, Piper, Marquez, and like all of those cars, very close still.
Yeah, and I'm actually really curious about today, because this is the first time since 1.9 I've seen a race at Bathurst, and it's going to be interesting how the top speeds have changed. I mean, the new Porsche is probably quicker than before, but I'm curious if now you actually have a chance to make any overtakes, because as we know in 1.8, it was really hard for the Porsches to make any overtakes here, because you would be stuck behind someone on the hill, and then on the straights everybody would just drive away from you. So I'm hoping that this has maybe changed. And
It's a good point.
yeah, but there's only 1, 2. Oh, Hill is still further on the back, so we have 3 Porsches still in the race. So yeah, there's a good chance we might see some overtakes on the straight if the speed has changed.
And of course, some of you probably wish we'd stop talking about the 1.9 update, but it is revolutionary. It's changed everything. And it's a good point that this is RCI's first big trip back here, especially in a grid this size. We'll get a good idea of what the cars are able to do. I expect tire deg and a little bit of graining on some of these drivers' tires, not nearly as bad as they would have been at 1.9, 1.92, sort of set right a lot of those wrongs. But tire degradation acts a lot differently here. It means a ton. And we'll be curious to see if you're very hard on them, will you take tires? You know, normally we have Ed Edwards with us to tell us what the pit requirements for this evening are. Have that this evening. Look those up. Even if tire change is not required, somebody might even consider it. Half of qualifying left to go. Seville still at the top of the board. Watson has made it incredibly close, just over 1/10 out of the pole position, still on the front row. Flamker 0.7 of a second off of the front 2.
I just checked for the pit requirements, and we have 1 mandatory stop, 1 liters of fuel, and nothing else. So I don't think a lot of people are going to take tires here, especially with these cold temps.
That's a good point. I didn't even check the forecast. We are optimum. There's not a cloud in the sky. Not that you can see the sky in the dark, but it is only 15 degrees C, just a minor breeze blowing across the racetrack. That's a good point. I think the tire point will be a moot point on this evening. Lucas Weiss for Paul Simsport, the 144, looks to be up on their lap. They're more than a second down, and now they have halved that gap. A 2-minute 9.32 puts them just about half a second off of the pole position. But more importantly for Weiss, jumps them up about 4 or 5 positions there.
And I think today is just going to be another day of the Pulse Simsport domination that we've seen in race 1 and 2. I think in race 1 we've had P1 to 4 from Pulse Simsport, and race 2 we had P1, 2, and 3. So yeah, all of them definitely really quick in these new Ferraris.
Of course, the new Ferrari kind of making its debut around this racetrack as well. How is that car going to take to the mountain? If there's anything to go by qualifying early on, it's very well. It's pretty identical to some of the other circuits. Of course, the 1.9.2 patch that they put out, it did offer some, argue some hard BOP adjustments. Not a official one, I don't believe yet, but either way, it might have helped some of the other cars competed. Ferrari may have came in slightly OP, but even still, got 3 of them inside the top 5 right now. 4 of them inside the top 5 right now.
Yeah, and one thing I don't think we've talked about in the previous races, or in any of the races I've broadcasted anyways, is the fuel consumption of the Ferrari is just insanely good. I think on average it can take about 30 liters less fuel to make a stint compared to the other cars, which is probably also one of the reasons why it's so quick at most of the tracks, but it's just insanely good on the fuel consumption.
It is insanely good, and again, that's something else too. I think when they get better specs for that car, that they'll look into potentially changing, or maybe it just in comparison, it is that good. Only time will tell. A little less than 5 minutes left in qualifying, and for those of you eagle-eyed among you in chat, you'll have already noticed something that Stewie pointed out immediately. Cars hitting the walls left, right, and center. I would argue nearly half of all the laps being run are either impacted by, well, no pun intended, the wall, or they have abandoned the laps. So just about 50% of all the laps are counting at this point. Time continues to tick down. That becomes ever more important. through the park section, up through turns 3 through 7. Biggest area of concern, but Forest Elbow, always a really, really difficult place to come through. Got some people bidding it through the chase as well. 4 minutes left here. Everybody's scrambling, trying to pick up some more time, especially some of these pro drivers in the middle of the field who are either trying to get out of the way of the silvers.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised about the huge difference in time here. I mean, look at the back. There's 6 seconds to the pole position time, and there's even 3 cars that haven't set a time at all yet. And yeah, most of the grid over a second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds off. I don't think it was that far apart in the previous races. I would say it was like very reasonable in terms of pace difference. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe not everybody had time to practice for today, or Bathurst is particularly difficult with 1.9. Not really sure what's going on with all of these drivers in the back here.
I just think it's exactly what we were talking about. I think nearly half these laps are ending in the wall, and when you've set a very conservative lap and you're going for it here, I think what that's doing is it's all or nothing at that point, and you've only got your banker lap in there, your time that's not realistically representative. Speaking of representative, Watson taken the pole position provisionally here, a 175. Just needs a little bit for Seville, and he's going to get it. It's the first 59, a 59.752, an absolute monster lap out of that 97.
Yeah, that's a pretty good lap, especially in the night, because with I don't know, was it 1.8 when they've introduced the dampness on the track during the nights, where the grip actually reduces again a bit. So yeah, 59.7. That's pretty quick lap around here, and I'm not sure if anyone can beat that time. We actually only have P1 and P2 within a second of each other, and I checked in the background what the pace difference was in the previous rounds, and it was like 3 to 4 seconds for the cars in the far back, and everybody else was in like 1 or 2 seconds. So yeah, quite a big pace difference here between all these cars.
Yeah, it's not uncommon to see a pace difference. It is uncommon to see one quite this significant. I wonder how much that's going to play into the race, because if you have the front of this field running, they're not going to run 59s in the race, let's be honest. But if they're running low 2s and the back of the field is running 3, 4, maybe even 5 seconds off of that, lap traffic is going to be huge here.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen a few lap traffic laps, I think, in the previous races, but only at the end. But yeah, if the pace difference is like we see it in qualifying, we're gonna see definitely more of that. And one driver I'm especially curious why he's so far down is Rafael Hill, because usually he's quite a quick driver and definitely top 10 material, but today doesn't seem like his car is working for him.
Yeah, Hill's definitely top 15, top 10 most of the time, almost automatic. The fact that they're not even in the top 20 and they've already abandoned qualifying, they're in the pit lane, will take no further part in this session. Javier Marquez for Pulse Sim Sport. We've got an armada of Pulse Sim Sport cars we have documented throughout the series thus far. They're trying to continue their march closer up towards their teammates. First through fourth place are all of those Ferraris, those brand new Ferraris. We've got Piper, the quickest silver car among them all. They're on the second row of the grid, P3 currently. The next nearest silver car is in Pusina, down in 13th place. That is getting yourself a fantastic gap. Pusina will not advance their time. Will Piper is nearly all of the top 5, exactly all the top 5 silver class in the pit lane, taking no further part. Olivier Kierton for Kraken Engineering, that 111 still out there trying to make a little bit of headway here. 1.6 off the leader, but a 10th here gets them a position. 10th and a half to 2/10 gets them potentially into the top 5. Anything more than 3/10, of course, that's just gravy. Gets you a first or second row start.
And at the moment, he's about 4 tenths up, but Javier Marquez is also 4 tenths up, and Lucas Weiss is also up on his time. So he might make one position, but I think about it with that. Lucas Weiss crossing the line, not enough to actually gain a position. And we have Curtin, just has the last corner to do, and he's still 4 tenths up, so probably
Could be huge. This
gonna
could be second row of the grid here.
makes it into P5. Now we've got Javier Marquez, who is also 4 tenths up. So I think Curtin will lose one of these spots again. And then we only have a few cars in the back that still can improve quite a lot. Ferreira, he is over a second up, so he will definitely jump quite a few positions.
This is sort of the thing. They ran the banker lap and they have struggled to get the quick lap in, but they've just about done it here. They look clean through the final couple of turns, and that did gain them more than a second there, but still 2.2 down, but that's not the point. Gained a ton of time. Here are the results of qualifying. Seville on the pole position. Extra points for the driver of the 97. Quickest second and third sector is indicated by the magenta times. Quickest first sector, though, Olivier Kierton ran a 37.987, the quickest of anybody in that first sector. Quite interesting. The last of the Ferrari parade, but quickest of all of them in that first sector. Piper on pole in the silver class. These are the rest of your qualifying drivers. Anything stand out to you here, Stewie?
Well, apart from the things I already mentioned with, for example, Hull being P24 and all the pulled SimSport cars in the front, I don't think Piper's pulled SimSport, but Seville, Watson, Marquez, and Weiss are, so that's 4 of them in the top 5. I'm surprised. Oh, Flamger, half a second down on the quickest time, so maybe the Porsche is not the dominant car around the mountain section anymore. But yeah, apart from that, the big gap between P1 and P2 in silver, it's going to be very hard for Kusina to get close to that. Yeah, it's just a very widespread field.
Christina, in our chat earlier, he mentioned that I can tell you after the 1.9 update, the BMW is an absolute joy to drive. I'm unsure if that was sarcastic or if he absolutely serious about that. It could go either way, but in the race tonight, in the chat, giving us updates on his thoughts and feelings. He might have been serious about that because, again, qualified P2 in class. Well, we're getting set up to run the race. 1 hour, the pit stop requirements, as said earlier by Stewie. We've got the magical keys in front of us this evening. And if it does go wrong for them out on the track, Stewie, I've just realized they're going to hear a little behind the scenes magic because we're going to have to orchestrate how a restart is done. And we're going to do that. If that happens, God forbid, of course, we're going to have to orchestrate that live on the air tonight, you and me.
That is true, yeah. It's going to be a interesting decision to make because it's hard to tell if you can't really go back and actually look at what's happening. Or maybe we will have to do that and sacrifice a bit of the broadcast time. We'll see.
Yeah, of course, normally this is the point where we take a look at the championship standings. Now, keep in mind, we've ran 2 rounds. There is a drop round. The drop round is automatically assigned to your worst finish in the series. So that's why the points look like this. But digress, Jordan Watson leading your championship, a perfect 72 points through 2 rounds with the drop round in attack. Jonathan Seville in the 97, who has 61 points, has a little bit more points after qualifying on pole tonight. In third place, Javier Marquez, also in a Ferrari, 58 points. Behind them, Jordan Daly, just gamers, tied with 53 points with Lucas Weiss for the honors of that. And then outside top 10, or the top 5, I should say, Miles Dixon on 48. Rafael Huel and Dos Ramos tied at 44 apiece for 7th place. Grim Lilith in 9th place, who I did not see in the field tonight, on 40 points. Mariano Rodriguez rounds out your top 10 on 37. Outside the top 10 in the pro class, Levin Epek with 34 points, Pavel Gaida with 28, Eshon Lele did not qualify well here today. 25 points, tied with Phil Roberts in 13th place. Danny Moffat rounds out your top 15 with 23 points. Olivier Kierton tied with Timothy Flamger for 21 apiece in 16th. Zach Doran on 14. Bailey Collins on 0. And Danny Santo and everyone else, dash instead of a number, hired from the championship in pro. Moving on to the Silver Championship, Rudy Philmalter, the pride of South Africa, has got 68 championship points. Jal Manso chasing them down 65. Matthew Malcolm on 62. In fourth place, Paolo Martino 58. Thomas Allen rounds out your top five with 53, tied with Callum Kerrigan. Alexander Ulrichs on 48, tied with Fred Friara, who we saw earlier on. And Agadello on 44. Mike Redford, who chat well, is your end of top 10. George Kiakowski in 11th place, also tied for 10th place. You've got Mustak with 31, Craig Starkey on 28, Edwin Yowett with 25, Gary Barham 21, Bryn Jones 19, Chris Wilson 17, got Rick Houston on 15, Lewis Piper, who set the pole position tonight with 4 points. Christina has no points, but is here tonight. Is there anybody left who is active? Yes, there is. Drivers all active with no points have a shot at getting some tonight. Got a lot of drivers in this series, Stewie. Jesus.
Yeah, I think we started with over 40 start. And it's a shame that we already lost 10, so 25%. But considering how few drivers we had in previous Night Owl season, that's still pretty decent turnout.
People love the Night Owl series. I love the Night Owl series, and it is great to have a huge grid here. Great to have Pulse Sim Sport involved in Night Owl, bringing an entire fleet of Ferraris, lovely painted up machines. Of course, custom liveries allowed in RCI competition. And wow, they have absolutely came with them in this series, and they have dominated this championship in Pro Stewie, likely be settled amongst themselves. But the question is, who?
Yeah, and I gotta say, I wasn't really a fan of the livery in the daytime, but now in the night, kind of looks pretty good. So, I don't know if that's just the lighting or I changed my mind. Not sure. But yeah, I don't think anybody will be able to fight for the win as long as all of these guys are in the races and doing all of the races. And I couldn't tell you who's going to win in the end. It's definitely interesting.
Well, it's definitely not driver number one, everybody follow me. We've seen that in the previous 2 rounds of this championship, that it's not like that at all. And they're always going to try and put their best foot forward or the best car forward on any given racetrack. Something that sort of surprised us at Watkins Glen. See how they interacted. That didn't appear to be any team orders other than don't crash each other out in this champ. So beyond that, it's going to be quite interesting to see who wins this, because even though they are teammates, they are fighting for the same championship, and they all are taking pole positions. They're taking wins. It could be anybody's game. Of course, tonight, we'll have a clearer picture of what that looks like. Pusina in chat, by the way, confirming that wasn't sarcasm. Absolutely loving the BMW, and certainly why not? Qualified in second place in the class, and quite frankly, such a good job in that car. Had the number one qualifying car of Piper not been absolutely extravagant, pulling out an incredible lap, that would have certainly been a contender for pole in that class. But again, Piper, the odd car out in front of all those Sim Sport cars in E3. 21 looks interesting, doesn't it? It's got a face on it, some sort of dragon.
Isn't that Phil? It is. So I think that's the first time I've seen him in a non-anime livery, I think.
I think that is supposed to be anime.
Is it?
I think it is, yeah. It's drawn like a anime. Anyway, it might be a reference that we just don't get.
I mean, that looks more like a dinosaur to me.
Well, I mean, there's dinosaurs in anime. Look at the fins. Look what he's done. Did
The
you
fins?
see the brake fins? Look at inside the front fender there. You can't see because it's dark, but oh my
When
goodness.
it's just red, isn't it?
Well, yeah, but see, some dinosaurs, right? They have those little fin things, and underneath, it's flesh tone. Anyway, the point is, he thought of that, and stubby little arms on that T-Rex, as is is normal.
All right.
GT3 RAR. Raphael, you didn't qualify very well tonight, but we're sure loving it. Either way, hopefully it all goes well. 30 plus cars is a lot of cars to stack onto the mountain as they are under their own steam on the pace lap. Next time they come through here, they will be doing so in anger, and hopefully we'll have no track blockages. RCI has a history of having to restart races here for complete track blockages. Hopefully not the case tonight. We have our marching instructions by a head steward of what we are supposed to do here in the booth in case it does go a bit wrong. And all I can say is hopefully we don't have to do that. Stewie, just to let you know, because you are the one that is better with the English language, you are going to have to tell them 10 seconds ahead of time that it's going to be restarted in the chat. Give them 10 seconds. Save the replay in those 10 seconds, then restart it. If that happens, that is the process that we go through, not special for tonight, just in general. The only difference is, of course, tonight we're having to do it live.
I don't know if you paid attention to it, but did you hear how absolutely silent the Ferrari was over the mountain?
Yeah, we talked about that in pre-stream about how strange that is. We're not sure if that car is meant to be that quiet from the forward-facing position, or if that's a sound issue in ACC, but it is a stealth race car from the front.
Yeah, I mean, in the warm-up lap, they weren't really hitting the throttle, but compared to other cars that are just way louder, even in idle mode, it was just ridiculous how you couldn't hear the car at all. You could probably hear the fans scream louder than the car was.
By the way, for those of you that are fans of the Bentley, we know we have more than a few that hang out just to cheer on the Bentleys. That was the gigantic Bentley car, just outside, just inside the top 10 that will start this race. The only Bentley in the series has been running quite well up near the top 10 all season long. Stu, before we light this candle, do you have any final predictions?
10 cars will die on lap 1. That's my prediction.
10 cars are going to go around. I'm gonna go over. I'm gonna say it's gonna require a restart based on the low light level, based on the track not having a lot of heat in them, based on how many cars we have. I'm gonna take the over, and I'm also going to hazard the guess restart will be required. But let's not hope that happens. Let's hope we have a clean enough start for this race. 2x2, Pole Simsport on pole position on the front row, and the green flag is displayed. The lights are all green, and we're going racing in Night Owl. Down into Hell Corner, it's an easy procession for Pole Simsport. A couple of cars off before they even make it to turn number 1, off onto the right side of the circuit. They'll rejoin at the back of the group, and that was a pretty easy start. The 587, by the way, has started in the pit lane. That's Ulrich's, and I wonder if that was done for self-preservation reasons. I can't imagine they missed the start of the race. And all up to turn 2, side by side they still are. A couple of cars slow around the outside, but nobody getting out of line, nobody getting into each other. It's an absolutely fantastic start of the race. Let's hope they continue that through the park section.
It's definitely been cleaner than what I would have expected at this point, but see one yellow flag there in the cutting. I'm gonna have a look at that later. Obviously a bit hard to see from the extended helicam here in the night. You can only see a few white lights going through the darkness. But yeah, the usual choking point, T2, was definitely good.
Well, they started off very procession-like at the front, got it sorted out. They've just about got it sorted out almost everywhere else. One of the cars off, I don't know if that was the 68 or the 69 car. By the way, not a nice way to start the race, but don't appear to be too out of sorts. There was another car involved, car in the 20s, numbering-wise. They are all going the right direction, coming down through the chase for the very first time. Already a little bit of a gap right here in this section. Timothy Flamger finds himself a little bit by himself. Pusita trying to get up inside the top 10 in 11th place right now, hanging out. Everybody line astern, absolutely packed together. One car goes flying off the racetrack. It's Mike Redford in the Mike Racing car. Oh, and he's going to lose it in front of the field. It's going to be a big crash. 2 cars, 3 cars, 4 cars involved as the track self-clears, but several cars involved as the 95 loses it trying to maintain speed and get back onto the racetrack. And that's a huge incident that several cars unfortunately got involved. The 523 also involved in that accident.
Yeah, I think my prediction of 10 cars wasn't too far off. I think I'm actually
you got close right there at the end.
I'm pretty sure it's a bit too low. How many cars do we have in the pits? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Some of those I don't think were involved in an incident. Some of those that might be the very early pit stop as a couple of cars go incredibly wide through the cutting there. And I think one of them, in fact, even tagged the wall. This place is hard enough to race in the daytime, bad night, and even though you have that 6, 7 headlamps on the front of the race car, it's still sometimes hard to spot how quickly the wall is coming up next to you. Generally have to have a really good feel for it. You can run wide, especially if you're preoccupied with a car in front. Speaking of in front, Seville has ran the quickest first lap and has a half of a second lead to his teammate Watson. Keep in mind, those are the cars racing for the championship as well. Ben Law, this is what I was talking about with the 68 car coming through the first time. Oh, and it's just a punt.
Yeah, and lucky that most of the cars got by there without any issues. But that was the lap 1 incident we've seen in the cutting. Did we have any other big crashes in lap 1? I don't think so. I think it was mainly just a few cars going wide in T1 because everybody was slow, obviously. And yeah, then one in the cutting. We've seen the other big one with Mike Redford, and apart from that, I think must have been either cars going off by themselves or yeah, maybe they're just going for an early pit stop. Like Morfart here, who probably sped in the pits.
It's very possible. The aptly team name Custom 1. Very interesting there. Lewis Piper continuing to lead. Remember, they qualified 3rd. They're down to 4th right now, but they have not let Weiss get away. Of course, you're not fighting for anything, and this is always the scariest thing driving for Primal is that you're not fighting for anything, really, because you're by yourself. You don't get more points. You're already getting max points for your class. And, of course, Weiss doesn't want to be raced by a silver car, but them's the brakes. Piper out-qualified nearly everybody here today, not just their class. Gets into the wall, but it could be a big slide, and it's a Tokyo drift up at the top of McPhillamy Park, and they just about save it. But, my goodness, that's how quickly things can change around here.
I feel like a lot of these drivers are struggling with grip here on the mountain. We've been on the back of the Audi a few minutes ago, and you could hear the tires just slide with every turn on the mountain, and the driver having to fight for his life basically to not lose the car. And I think every time we go to a car on the mountain, either this car or the one in front or behind is hitting the wall. It would be nice if we could have a wall hit counter, but unfortunately technically not possible. But that would be a very interesting number to see, I think.
Yeah, if you're playing a Gran Turismo racing game, it would be all too obliged to tell you how many times you hit the wall, and I'd rather it's actually forget. Funny how that works out. Abel Dos Ramos in 8th place, the tier racing car, in the middle of a huge fight with Flamger and other cars besides. Mariano Rodriguez, what happens down through the chase this time? A little close racing, a little argy-bargy perhaps. they all make it through the chase just fine.
And they did have a contact on the straight before, which looked like they were almost going sideways. But they just managed to not spin themselves. Currently the closest car on track. And yeah, the Audi seemed particularly sketchy over the mountain, at least when we spectated it. So hopefully Rodriguez can deal with that. And I think, wasn't Rodriguez one of the cars that started pretty far in the back? Wasn't he the last pro car that started?
I don't think that's the case.
I think he was in around P20, if I'm not mistaken, which means he made up quite a few positions with all these crashes.
If that is true, that is a remarkable recovery to get back to your class, so to speak. Just has Aiden Pacina in front of them to get by them, of course.
Oh, double yellow.
About 2 seconds. It's back into their own class. A couple things from chat. Mentioned the Boatley earlier on. Josh joined us. No stranger to us here at RCI. In fact, did an interview on Friday in his class. Oh no, that's your leader in the silver class, Lewis Piper. Your pole sitter and leader in the silver class has crashed coming through Sunset, and they have teleported into the pit lane.
Fortunately, we didn't quite catch what happened, but yeah, must have just lost in one of these turns and received so much damage that they decided to end the race right there. They already shut the garage doors and left the race. So that means Pacina is now the new leader in silver.
My, how things change. Aiden Pacina, your leader in the silver class. Absolutely loving the BMW. Said in chat earlier on in the race, he's going to be extra loving this now, leading the race for himself. Incredible stuff. As I was saying earlier, I was talking about the Bentley. A lot of fans of the Bentley. Josh Lation, also a fan of the Bentley. Mike Redford giving us his take of the accident that caused the incident before the final turn. Said that the car can go into a crater. I like the self-censorship there. It makes it easy. It was going 20 miles an hour. The car span left out of nowhere. Yeah, I think we definitely saw that. Caught everybody unawares, and unfortunate for Mark Brown too. BSL racing car. Oh yeah, and they've just lost it there.
They luckily didn't roll back, but seemed to struggle a bit with getting the gear in.
Car stalled. Car stalled is what happened there. Rolled backwards and stalled. This is normal, but yeah, just slid it around, hit one of the bumps in an unadvantageous way. Sometimes you can't hit them and it helps you rotate. Sometimes you can hit them, pops you in the air, lose all traction. I think that's exactly what happened there. They just about got it going, and a big moment from Rodriguez.
Yeah, this is what I've been saying before. The Audi here seems very loose on the rear. And nearly cost him the race maybe. But just about caught it. Whew.
We got a Timothy Flamger fan in chat. I love that. I don't know if they're cheering for Flamger in general, or it's because they're the leading car that's not a Ferrari. Either way, we'll take it. 19 in P5, the highest running of the non-Ferrari class, as we've deemed. You'll get more points for that, of course, but still could be a point of pride. Fred's had an incident before they get to Sunset, or actually after Sunset. They've straddled the curb hard into the inside wall, and they're pogo sticking and just about getting through there. A couple of cars. Did that Ferrari that came through have any idea how close to death they actually?
I'm not sure. I'm not even sure who that was. I don't think it was one of the cars that are behind him on the standings. I think that was one of the leading cars. Wasn't that the Honda? Wasn't that the 18?
It might have been the Honda, Stewie. I might have been incorrect there, but either way, Fred Ferreira, excuse me, has taken their car to the garage as well after an incident on the mountain. That can happen. Straddle that curb. You either want to be to the inside or to the outside of that curb, because if you straddle it, you high center, you lose all steering and all traction. going to spit you out. That was honestly the better of the two. It spit him out to the inside wall. Going into the outside wall is a lot more detriment to the other cars around here. Everybody able to be around there.
And taking the grass, sand, I don't actually know what it is. I think it's actually gravel trap, right?
It is gravel trap.
Yeah, that it doesn't slow you down as much as you usually want to because you're going so fast in this corner. And even if you hit the gravel trap, you're still usually driving straight into the wall on the other end. But yeah, that's just the mountain. And with Paul Martino here trying to defend from Yul Pimlott. And we're gonna have a look at the top speed here from the Merc, because the Merc was one of the quickest cars around here before the patch. We're going 282, while the 587 is in the gravel.
Alexander Ulrichs is around, and yes, coming into Sunset. And honestly, I was going to say that's more beneficial than hitting the wall, but getting out of that sand pit, especially facing the other way. If I was Ulrichs, I'd gas it up, spin it back the other way around. There's a huge crash happening here as one of the Ferraris goes way off the racetrack. Was that an accident, not knowing where the edge of the track was? Phil Roberts going for the pass, a little bit of a shade there by the Ferrari. Does he have enough legs? Oh, he just lost it himself. Look, he goes to the inside. There's a bump. He hits the bump in the dirt and hard into the wall as he ends up closer to the hotel than the racetrack.
And you know what that means? All the brake boards are gone. So I'm pretty sure he hit all of them. So I wouldn't be surprised if we're gonna see some accidents now in the chase, while Watson here nearly losing it. He actually caught up to Seville quite a bit. Before, the gap was around what we see right now, 0.8 to a second, and seems like Seville made a mistake last lap, so that Watson actually caught up. But yeah, the lead definitely not decided yet.
No, we saw this last week and the week before that too, when Watson was leading. These little micro mistakes, as I call them, when your teammates are just as good as you are, any sort of little micro mistake brings them right back in line with you. That's exactly what happened in the case of the two leaders of the race. Riding on board the Alpha Sim Sport car, Timothy Flamker up in the P5. That's Javier Marquez right in front of him in the 49. Marquez has fallen off the back of Lucas Weiss for third place and into the clutches of Flamker. Adam Crusita trying to go, I think, try to set up a pass there, but gets out of line. Was this a little bit too much speed?
I wouldn't be surprised if that's the missing brake boards.
Oh, it's just way too much speed in there. How in the world did Pusina save that? I don't know, but excellent save in the big BMW.
I think we're gonna see a bit more of that, especially with cars in the slipstream. It's so hard to judge where to brake. And that is Alexander Orlich going very slow again over the mountain. Let's see what happened here.
Wait, that's a different one. That's a different accident.
It is, yeah, it just happened. And he actually didn't hit anything. That's incredible.
Yeah, and more interestingly, nobody hit him sitting at the bottom of that hill. So 2 laps in a row, Alexander Ulrichs has crashed coming through Sunset. 2 different ways, mind you. And I don't think they got damage either time.
I'm pretty sure it was the same way, because the last time we didn't really catch how it happened, but based on their position in the gravel pit, it looked like they went too far on the inside, hit the curb, and that catapulted them outside, which is basically what happened right now. But yeah, incredible that they could keep it out of the wall both times and just keep on driving.
By the way, just to catch you up, you're absolutely right. That was a Honda coming through the last time we saw an incident. Well, actually, the first time we saw an incident coming through Sunset, that was a Honda. That was Mike Redford's Honda sneaking through the accident scene as the car was bouncing off of the wall. Mike, if you can hear us, he missed you by that much.
The Honda and the Ferrari look way too similar from behind.
They've got that light bar now, and in the dark, it's quite close. Yeah.
I've been caught out by that quite a few times in this championship with all these Ferraris, and it's just this weird, I don't know, shape of the Ferrari's back that's just, firstly, not great looking, and secondly, way too similar to the Honda.
Wow. All right, Ferrari, if you're listening, I love the shape of your back.
Do you?
I think it's fun.
I thought everybody agreed that it looks good from the front and shit from the back.
I didn't say it looked great. I just said it. Moving on. Lead battle up for you. Seville leading the race, qualified on pole. He had more than a second lead at some point. In fact, had regained a second lead on his teammate, but it's been reduced back down to half of a second. Phil Roberts, a little bit out of place, a driver that was definitely was closer to the top 10 earlier on, driving the Thunderbird 2 Bentley, working their way up through some of the silver traffic. That is exactly what happened. Roberts is the leader of the cars that have pitted, was running around the top 10 at the time, but now has the precarious task working through the silvers who haven't pitted.
And I think that might actually be a good strategy here on Bathurst, because if you pit early and not getting stuck behind other cars, that might be a bit slow. And even if the cars ahead of you are not slower, you're just losing so much time on the mountain by being in the dirty air. So if you're not leading the race or have a big gap ahead of you, pitting early, especially on this track, might be a really good call. And we're going to see where Phil is going to come out in the end when the other cars are pitting.
I think if you are going to pit early here, I think you have to sort of hedge your bets a little bit. You can't come in too early. I think you put yourself in too far of a hole at the end if you have to defend, which I suspect, as close as a lot of the racing is here, you might have to do that. I think coming in sort of halfway at the quarter mark is the best way to get that done. Seems to be what Phil Roberts has done. I think that's a good idea. Coming in too early or too late, I don't know. I would probably still, if I was out there doing my own thing and I was unimpeded, I'd probably stay out to the halfway mark. But again, for Phil Roberts, it's probably a good idea. Like you said, I think he came in at the right time for him anyway.
He came in lap 0, so he pitted as early as possible.
Well, that was stupid. He shouldn't have done that.
I disagree.
We have fun on Night Out, just in case you're wondering. This is not a normal type of telecast we do. We have a little bit of fun. There's some jokes in there, a little bit of banter, as the British would say. Phil obviously is a more intelligent race car driver, so he probably knew exactly what he wanted to do. He's probably getting a little bit crazy in front of him and decided, it's probably better to get this over with now. But I wouldn't do that. You think it's the right idea. I'm quite curious which one will be the better of the two. I'm pretty sure you're correct. Ashon Lele up inside the top 15 in close quarters here as they're on top of the mountain exiting, or entering rather, I should say, and just got a little bit wide. Lele able to gain a spot for Sabre Racing up into P14. Lele is one of those cars qualified outside the top 20, as you will recall, and trying to make up some of those spots.
At least we know that Phil is in the top 20 then, based on these positions. And now Flamger close enough to go for a move. Didn't quite maybe have the balls to stick it on the inside there. As we saw with other cars before, it's really bumpy there on the inside, and if the car on the outside is not giving you a small gap between you two, then this will usually end up in both cars going into the wall. But he's definitely putting on the pressure now on Marquez, who's already almost 10 seconds behind P3. So yeah, these Pulse drivers, while they're all quick, Seville and Watson definitely a bit quicker than the other two.
It's a good point. I think Flamger decided there that if he gives me half a chance, Marquez that is, I'm going to make a run at it. But if he doesn't make a mistake, I'm just going to fall back in line. We've seen it a couple of times. Look at Flamger riding the back at the end of the mountain straight, riding the back of Marquez, getting all up in the mirrors. That is distracting as a race driver. You don't want somebody that close to you start to worry about maybe a little bit of contact. No worry out of Marquez that time. But I will say, Timothy Flamger piling on the pressure here.
Yeah, and it's actually, going back to what I said earlier before we started the race, it's already a good sign that the Porsche can even attempt overtakes on the straights. Before, every other car would just drive away even if you're on the slipstream. And while it may not be able to make a pass already on the straight, if you can get close enough to make the pass in the braking zone, that's already a huge win over what we had before.
Mike Redford out of the car, out of this race. 2 minutes worth of damage. I don't know if that's an additional incident we didn't see, but they are closing the garage door. Redford out of this race in the Honda. Rather unfortunate, upset with himself, upset with the race in general.
Yeah, it must have been just an incident by himself, and missed that on the track map when the yellow popped up. I don't have anything in my my contact list reported by the game, so that was...
Yeah, we definitely saw that. Oh, Donoso is going to go for a big one here. He's going to clap both of the walls into the outside, into the inside, and unfortunately backwards. This is a scary place, but luckily nobody within a country mile, or 1.6 kilometers, of him. So he's able to get that turned back around, but huge damage on the Heart of Racing liveried Aston. And that's a long drive back to pit lane.
Yeah, but it seems like he definitely wants to continue with the race, otherwise wouldn't go through the trouble of driving back. At least can still go relatively straight. I remember the last time I did a Bathurst race, and I binned it in the... I think it was actually the last lap, and I had to drive the car back to the finish line, and I could not go that straight, so I was bouncing off the walls down the straight here on the left side, trying to make it somehow. That definitely wasn't too much fun.
No, when the steering's been, especially on a track like this that's so quick, it's rather unfortunate. The only good thing is that you have two long straights, depending on where you crash, sort of dial that back in. And correct use of the indicators used by Phil Roberts right there. Now, that is a man who's never got a speeding ticket in his...
Wasn't he running both left and right while he was passing? I don't think that's the correct way to use them.
I think he was indicating that other drivers should use caution, then use the correct indicator. Either that or he hit the wrong button and thought that he was indicating when in fact he hit the hazard lights. Either way, correct use of indicators on a racetrack, you love to see it. Thunderbird 2 would approve.
I mean, that's what we would expect from the head steward, right?
Yeah, you would expect that. Of course, there's no rules that say you have to do that here, but leading by example, Phil Roberts. Seb Brunier has joined us in chat, says the mountain will always claim its sacrifice. Can guarantee that. I can guarantee that. As sure as the sun will rise tomorrow and that taxes are always due, I guarantee the mountain will take its sacrifice. Sometimes it's been me, which I'm less excited about.
And seems like the pretty full belly of the mountain, because we have another victim here.
And definitely is a bit of a glutton. Ben Law, what is going on here? That's the hotel I talked about earlier. That was an awkward spin. Looked like they were wrestling the car, and they got to the right-hander at the end of the chase and just sort of threw it into the dirt there.
Probably just a bit too much speed and couldn't really stop it in time, which I'm going to blame the missing brake boards for again.
You are upset about the missing brake boards.
I mean, I know how annoying it is as a driver, and if you're in a fight or slipstream, as I mentioned before, it's just it's so easy to just miss by just let it be 20 meters or something, and if you brake too late with the way the track goes uphill over the small crest there, it's hard to catch the car if you're going a bit too quick, because the rear just gets very loose and yeah, it just sends you wide.
Ishan Lele got really close to the wall there. I thought for a split second they may have touched the wall in one of the park sections. Neil Pimlott, WRT livery car, getting a great look at the car in front of them, sizing up their competition. So is Timothy Flamker, the Alpha Sim Sport number 19, still behind Marquez for 4th place and still not able to get by. Flamker using a lot of patience here. He could join a nunnery with patience like that.
Look at that.
Well, I was going to say that's not good. Stationary car, Chris Wilson,
Ooh.
coming down through the S's here, just overdoes it hard into the wall backwards.
Oh, that's such an unfortunate position to be stuck at. You managed to turn around already, but you're facing uphill, and you're gonna have to make a 180-degree turn with a track that's barely wide enough for your car to be sideways. Luckily, he did manage to turn the car around without any other car coming while he did that. But yeah, that's just one of the worst spots to be stuck at on this track.
I've seen cars do this before in races that we've done where if they get stuck in the S's, they literally they don't try to turn around. They just hit reverse until it straightens back out before you get to the elbow. Then you turn the car around where you have a little bit more space. It's not a one-lane racetrack. So that can work in some cases. It's nonetheless incredibly scary place. I would agree with you, partner. The worst place on this racetrack to be backwards.
And even the section afterwards is not that much wider. It's still...
Yeah, it's not great. It's not a great situation.
Yeah. I keep forgetting the name of the character or the movie or the franchise, whatever you want to call it, with the small cart stuck in the hallway going back and forth, back and forth. Austin Powers, yes.
Yeah.
The whole mountain section after the sunset is just the Austin Powers meme. If you're sideways, that is.
Austin Powers... cinema classics. I mean, come on. Like, I know. Might I suggest Austin Powers on your watch list? You got to rewatch them. They're all fantastic, and I will hear no argument to the contrary. Fantastic films, bulletproof plot.
It's been a while since I've seen them. I would argue probably...
Oh, man!
10 plus years. Yeah, that
Holy
was...
cow!
back marker, I think. Yeah, that was Barham. Going
Yeah,
a bit too far on the outside curb there.
I tell you what, the timing and scoring threw me for a loop. I was confused why Jordan Daly was suddenly in a Ferrari. It wasn't. Daly's at the back of the train, and that's just how quickly it can change. Javier snaking his way down the tiny pit straight here at Mount Panorama, and Flamker, of course, had little time to react, but did so in a very quick and calm, cool manner. Both cars able to just get around. I mentioned Jordan Daly because this fight, Javier Marquez continues to lose time to Weiss in P3. Flamker not able to make a move work. That is drawing Jordan Daly into this fight for fourth.
And Flamker seems to struggle a bit here on the mountain in the dirty air. Lost the car a bit in the cutting there. And is that Marquez having the rain lights on? And it looks like
some of the cars have the rain light. For those that may be uninitiated with ACC, you have full button mapping for the car's functions and controls, including the rain light. You can activate that manually. Most people just leave it automatic, of course. When it's raining, it comes on. But some people run with the rain light on. I don't know if that's a distractionary tactic. I've talked to a few drivers before that have argued that it is distracting and they hate that. So is that a defensive maneuver? Is that accidental button press? Your guess is as good as mine. What is not a guess, Eshan Lele has a drive-through penalty. That was the pass earlier. Lele has come out of the pit lane, Stewie, and I suspect speeding in the pit lane.
Yeah, since we don't have live stewarding, there's not that many other options. And that is the 69 of the track. And that looks like missing the braking point, going too fast. Close.
Yeah, braking and turning. Don't necessarily want to be doing either too hard at the same time. Able to get the car going, no pun intended, but fortunately didn't crash into anything, didn't really do any more damage. Lost a few positions. But beyond that, able
Oh,
to continue on in.
This is interesting, because Daly's coming out of the pits now, which means you can see where he's at in regards to Phil Roberts, and Phil is 7 seconds behind. So that might be a P9 or P10 for Phil Roberts at the moment.
It might be. Remember, was fighting for a top 10 spot, P10, P9. Whenever they came in at the end of the first lap, that fighting for. I mean, that's just about where they started. Daly then assumes the lead of the cars that have completed their mandatory pit stop tonight. The top 9 cars still yet to come in. Malcolm, the leader in the silver class for the time being, trying to spot. Leader of the cars that have pitted is Steve. Oh, Gary Barham has crashed. Ooh.
The leader of the cars that pitted is Daly. I'm not totally wrong here.
No, you are. I was trying to figure out who the leader of the silver. That Neil Pimlott, I wonder. And it is Neil Pimlott, the leader of the cars that have pitted. So where has what happened to the 903 of Kusina? I mean, they're in 19th place. I can see them, but what happened? That was a massive time loss.
Looking at the pit stop time, I think they thought tires swap is mandatory. Because Pimlott's pit stop was a 43 and Pusino's pit stop was a 114, so that's 30 seconds more. Actually way more than tires. So another victim here. So they might have had some damage, plus thinking there's a mandatory tire swap, and that was a really weird one.
Oh man!
Somehow lost it there. The car probably just got very light with the dirty air. Just lost it there on the inside. We save it.
I would have to agree.
It looks like Watson gets close to Seville when Seville makes a mistake. Because if you look at the last lap, Seville did a 2:02.9 and Watson a 2:01.8. But then as soon as Watson is close behind, the gap just grows again. Probably the dirty air, and this doesn't stop. We have another one on the mountain. This time it's Craig Starkey using it into the elbow here, spinning it around. Also one of the more awkward places here to turn, because it's a very steep climb to turn the car around.
As a professional crasher in the elbow, I've trained myself to not end up backwards there for that very reason. Crash into the elbow, you want to crash into the tires, but be facing the right direction. Otherwise, that is an absolute nightmare. The only good news is that the elbow is right there. If you're looking up the straight the wrong way, you can see who's coming, and you can kind of time whenever you get back around. But what you don't want to do, get caught in an Austin Powers situation, which you are in absolute of doing so. Up front, no movement. Seville and Watson, your top two. They've broken away from everybody else. Weiss, a distant 12.5 second third place. Not a factor in this battle right now as the sun begins to rise here in Australia over the mountain. And to some, it will come too little and too late for these two. It's very much a chess game. Who's going to win this race might just be decided in the pit lane.
Yeah, I think both of them will try to stay out as long as possible, because these tires are a lot more sensitive to temperature changes, and if you drive through the pit lane and stop for a bit, they will drop in temperature quite a lot, which means your next lap will be quite slow. So staying out longer and getting the track position is usually a better option in these kind of races. But yeah, I didn't actually expect it to be that close for the entire race, based on how quick Seville put up a gap at the start of the race and then kind of dropped down a bit. The battle between Flamger and Marquez also cooled down a bit. It's been about a second for most part. And yeah, there were just too many cars that fell victim to the mountain, so there's not actually too many fights going on at the moment.
There's not, but I can tell you, Malcolm, who is the leader earlier on in the silver class, they came in while we were digging through some of those replays of the crash victims for the race. 199 did come in and had a clean pit stop. They are the leader in the silver class of the cars that have pitted. They were able to jump the pim lot, and by jump, I mean they were just able to maintain their position as they were in front of pim lot prior to that. So Malcolm, the leader of the cars that have pitted, Martino in the 108 Mercedes is the leader in the silver class right now. Still has a pit stop to give. Crucina, who was leader earlier on after the pole sitter in the silver class crashed out of this race, they are in 19th place and they're 6.2 behind Manso for a top 5 position. Mustak in the 18 Honda has a pit stop left to give in the middle of that field. That should promote 169 of Agadello, Manso, and Crucina, maybe Kwiatkowski, depending on how long the pit stop is, up one spot. The top 6, go ahead and make it the top 7 in the pro class, have yet to make their pit stop as they're going to leave this very late. The common tactic for Pole Sim Sport to go sort of late as possible. Should we expect them to change it up here in the next 15 minutes, or will they try to go just about the distance here?
I'm fairly convinced they will just drive until the end. Also, another thing that I always try to think of when I'm racing, if you're in one of the leading positions, the earlier you pit, the more you risk ending up in cars that haven't pitted yet, and you're just going to be stuck behind them. So especially in the leading positions, it's usually always better to wait as long as possible if there's no tire change required and you just need to refuel 1 liter of fuel. So yeah, I don't think they're going to change it up today, but they are getting closer again, and there is a back marker ahead of them, actually a few, so these might play an important role in how this battle ends up here.
Certainly is the case. Martino, by the way, he's got leading the chat and been doing the math, as you might expect. And Mini Simeon might be right. Martino and Malcolm should be, because of how short pit lane is, fairly close on the racetrack, depending on what the 108 does in the pit lane. We'll kind of keep updated on that. Jordan Watson for Pole Sim Sport. I said earlier, Flamger had the patience of a nun, and you could probably argue the same for Jordan Watson. In fact, I would argue that. Jordan Watson has been a really good teammate here, following his lead driver in Seville. Watson, of course, leading the championship. He's also bouncing off the wall, but Seville does the same thing in the very next corner as there's lap traffic immediately up in front. Things getting dicey here with 20 minutes left to go.
You can definitely see the impact of the dirty air here. As soon as Seville is behind another car, struggling as well, keeping the car out of the walls, and nearly lost it there in the sunset as well. But now, unfortunately, Seville with a slipstream and Watson with a slipstream. So, yeah, the lap traffic actually helping them a bit at the moment. And I don't think they're going to catch the other car before the chase.
Correct use of indicators. Well done, driver, whoever you are in that car.
But look at the speed here. I don't even know where the speedometer is. Couldn't... it's in the top right corner.
Oh, he's thinking about going around the outside. That becomes the inside. Unable to do it. Gets blocked off there, but certainly intent to potentially make the pass for the lead of the race on the racetrack. Unable to get it done. What I was saying, that Ferrari just in the background, I don't know if that's the number 11 car.
Yes, it is.
It is the number 11 car. That's Moffitt. They used their indicator in the improper way to, well, actually, no, in the correct way to let them know which way they were going, meaning that he was getting out of the way. That's such an excellent job of back markership. Car that's in 21st place, but still, excellent job by the 11 and Moffitt. I applaud you for doing.
Saw the number 212 also let both of them by before the corner. And in this corner, Watson is always gaining a lot of time on Seville, so it seems like he has that one figured out a bit better. But now Gonna see the wiggle again. I'm pretty sure of it. Over the mountain here. I don't think Watson has been that close before.
It's been just about this. It looked about this for the last lap or so, but oh, it's a huge crash. It's gonna be a crash. Your leader, Jonathan Seville, has crashed over Sunset, trying to rejoin. Everybody able to just about sneak through. Watson goes through to the lead. Jonathan Seville crashes on a curb coming through Sunset. The first and only little chink in the armor, and it's going to be a disaster for Jonathan Seville.
And it looks like he almost didn't get any damage from that, surprisingly. The windshield is still not cracked and the steering still looks pretty much straight. So he only lost one position with that, which is a miracle, I might say. We have Alex, who is, I think that's the third time that we see them in the wall.
There, Stewie.
I think this time there was actually contact. Not sure if the contact caused this, but probably did, because we didn't see any contact now. But before we look at that, we have an overtake from Rodriguez on Mustang. Not sure if they were just that by, or the Honda had a bad exit. Not sure. Could be either. The Honda lifted a bit because Rodriguez is in pro and Himlot in silver.
Just sort of forfeited that. Mustang didn't want to get into a fight that they probably didn't need to be in or couldn't win to begin with. Not their fight today. Mustang good heads up driving, and see Alexander Ulrichs here. What happened? Now that is one of the weirdest things. Where will you be when the aliens call you to the mothership? Now that was an odd one.
And the game did report a contact for that, so I guess in all the spinning and seems like a few connection issues that Alex had there, the game actually thought that there was contact with the car behind, which, since it was a pulled SimSport car, must have been one of the... I guess it was Weiss then. It wasn't the other two. So lucky for them, they didn't get sent into a wall there. This was an overtake from Arguledo on Mustang. And we already have another yellow flag. And Law this time.
In Law, was there contact with the 2-2?
Hit the grass.
Nope, no contact there. It's hitting the grass.
Can't blame that on the brake boards, I guess.
Well, if you are just joining us, and
we missed the overtake.
We certainly did. Timothy Flamger, who was more than a second back, clawed all of that time back, but has been able to finally, after 40 minutes of trying, make the pass on the driver in front, and nowhere near even in that shot. So it happened. That is not Timothy Flamger, by the way, in the Pulse car. That was Javier Marquez, but Flamger has made the pass. I wonder if there was some sort of incident that created that opportunity for Timothy Flamger. Either way, like I was saying, for those of you playing Night Owl Bingo, both leaders in both classes tonight have crashed in this race, leading to lead changes in those classes. I didn't have that on my board, but maybe one of you did. Incredible scenes.
Actually, looking for the overtake here, because there was almost 2 seconds between them, so Marquez must have made a pretty big mistake for that to happen. And,
some of you are going to be curious about this. This scene that we're showing you right now, this is the classic Stewie's trying to find an incident that he doesn't immediately have a replay for. This is the investigative version. Stewie, do you wear like a hat and smoke a corncob pipe when you are looking for this sort of thing?
I would, but I need both of my hands to find these incidents.
Good call.
And,
so, yep, that's exactly what it is.
Just didn't really have any grip there, and that lost him about 3 seconds almost.
Excellent catch. Well, you can fool the replay tool, but you cannot fool Stewie. He's eagle-eyed, and he will find what happened. And no real contact for Marquez for Pole Sim Sport, but rather unfortunately was going to surrender that spot one way or another. Flamger able to get by eventually, and still everybody in the top 8, including Martino, the leader in silver, still get to pit.
What?
Oh,
That's-
Jordan Watson's crashed into hell corner. Jordan Watson's gone off. There's a car stopped at the end of pit lane. Unknown if they're involved here. They might be. This is not Jordan Watson. And
That
it is the
Olic.
lap car. The lap car crashes into the leader, Jordan Watson. Alexander Ulrich's involved and pulls over into the pit lane. Incredible scenes. Watson crashed, but no real damage done. Still leading Seville, who is out there on those absolutely destroyed tires. No, Seville has taken the lead again.
Yeah, just before we saw that happen, I was actually going to say that Seville's pace didn't really change from before the incident he had, which is surprising. They were doing low to mid 201s before, and they're still doing that now. Last lap was a 201.5 for Seville and 201.3 for Watson. And yeah, then the thing happened, and now we have a lead swap again. I think that's more lead swaps than we've seen in the other 2 races combined, because I think there were 0 of them.
Well, it's more than you get in F1 anyway. Jonathan Seville leading the race for the second time today. Gifted one by a lap car, making contact with the leader into Hell Corner. If you've ever wondered why they call it Hell Corner, well, there you got your answer.
Is that actually where the name comes from? Do you know? I mean, do you know where it comes from?
I'm pretty sure it's Australian, right? So I'm pretty sure I read at some point it's called Hell Corner for a reason, meaning that it is HE double hockey sticks to have to race through there, especially on the starts of races. Now, I could be wrong about that, but I heard that once on a V8 broadcast, and I just assumed they were right.
I just thought the Audi braked a bit too late here, but Rodriguez letting the Lambo through. I don't know if you caught that, but the Audi out of Hell Corner, really bumpy there over the curbs. And are we gonna see the first 2 right here on the mountain? I don't think we will. We're close to it. And now it's actually a 3-way fight.
Mariano Rodriguez continuing to hound the back of Agudelo. Rafael Huel now involved in this as well. They've slowed each other up. That the AO Racing number 21 involved on the top of the mountain now, sizing up the competition and to figure out just exactly what they're going to have to do. Maybe make up some of these spots. Huel qualified out of position, unlike Rafael, to qualify so low down, unable to get the quick lap in. Got a safety lap in, but not the quick lap. Relegated them to outside the top 20. Their pit stops are all done. They're racing for what is almost certainly going to end up being top 15 spot, but they've got to get through this man, Mariano Rodriguez for CLS Racing, and Agudelo, who's just in front as they've all spaced out just a bit over the mountain. What, you saw something that was funny. Well, what happened?
Yeah, I saw 286 without slipstream on the Audi.
Oh, Ben Law again. Backwards.
And yeah.
I was going to ask how he ended up backwards, and that's how.
Yeah, about the Audi, I think it's been mentioned on one of the broadcasts I've been on, but I think it was actually on the 6-hour broadcast by John Dalton, who mentioned that the Audi with the update seems to have lost quite a bit of downforce. So while the wing values are the same in 1.8 and 1.9, the amount of drag it creates is significantly lower, and the Audi is now an insanely quick car on the straight. And I just wanted to see if that is actually the case. And 287 without slipstream, definitely one of the quicker cars. The only one that could beat that is probably the M6, which I know can reach 290 on this track.
Yeah, I heard from a pro sim racer that max wing on the Audi now.
That is a
as
very
Lucas
destroyed
Weiss-
front.
Yeah, Lucas Weiss has crashed into something.
Wonder if that's just like a visual bug, that it's not actually that bad, because we don't see any cracks in the windshield. And sometimes if you just hit another car very lightly in the back, the ACC visual model just makes it look way worse. See, it's the 144. I don't have any contact. Actually, there's one in lap 1. Have a look at this one. This was, yeah, lap 1, 2. There's nothing. Okay. Yep, then I'm not really sure where the damage is from. There's Rodriguez.
Oh, it's a big slide from Rodriguez. They will surrender that spot to fuel, and that will forfeit the fight with Agadello. Rodriguez spins the car around the right way and rejoins the racetrack, but the damage done, the loss of several spots.
Definitely gonna have a look after the race is over, if something happened to Weiss that we maybe didn't see. It's also possible that
didn't help.
It's also possible that the front is just a bit dented from all the wall hits, but
you guys can't see this, and sometimes you don't hear it, but today you're getting to hear Stewie in full force. Anytime something upsets him, he lets out noises, audible noises, and I'm recoiling in my seat as well every time they get close to the wall, and not without reason either. Javier Marquez trying to make it around their teammate Weiss, and I think they will oblige. Weiss tucks into the slipstream, certainly carrying damage, I would say, Stewie, even if it isn't as severe as it appears. It might actually be as bad as it appears.
Oh yeah, the lights are flickering, and you could see the top speed just wasn't there. Must have happened in one of the recent laps, because I don't. Actually,
Was that a crash coming into pit lane, do you wonder?
Possible.
Because
I mean,
that is common. We haven't seen that today.
We haven't really looked at Weiss too much before, because they were quite alone on the track. And I think Pusina just made a pass on Rodriguez here. And that was the case, so Pusina must have...
Rodriguez almost certainly you.
I mean, the pass happened somewhere here.
Yep.
Ouch.
Messed up the steering, messed up the braking into the S's. Easy pass for Eden Pusina.
And my timing board is... Yep. That's another one.
Abel Dos Ramos out of the top 10 crashed.
And I think that was just on their own.
Yep, into the wall. Absolutely.
But that was...
and it's a huge one.
That was a really weird one. Like, they hit the outside wall before the turn, and then because the car was stuck to the wall, they couldn't turn left anymore. And then we're just stuck there, and we have another one, which is Starkey. So if we can catch it, yep. Going a bit too wide and just...
Oh!
That actually looked more like a wheel failure. Or maybe the first hit just destroyed the steering column already, so they couldn't turn the wheel anymore.
I think you're right with that second one, partner. I think that he hit the wall so hard it collapsed the front suspension, and he had absolutely no chance to save that car. Another car victim here. By the way, Seb Brunier, for those of you wondering, Seb Brunier is, and he has been several times, making references to Ryan Gill crashing around the Bathurst racetrack, and Ryan Gill famously in the year 2021 had a catastrophic accident here in a Lamborghini in the pit lane. I wasn't referencing that. Seb Brunier was referencing that, but it gets brought up every time somebody mentions crashing in the pit lane. Rest in peace, Ryan Gill, 2021 pit lane crash. He's still with us, just so we know, but he's too embarrassed to ever race here again.
This one is an interesting lap, because it's the out lap, and We've seen that with a few other cars. The grip is just not there yet, but Cyril so far survived the hardest part. And that was actually an early pit stop, which I wouldn't have... I mean, early in relation to when the pit window closes.
Second.
Yeah, exactly. Which sometimes you would do here because you never know what happens. And if you have a really slow lap and you're cutting it really close, then you might get the drive-through or SG10 or 80 seconds, something like that, for not doing the mandatory pit stop. We have Watson coming into the pits. And someone mentioned that Martino lost a lot of spots, so I will have a look in at the pit stop time. So the pit stop time for Malcolm was 40.9 seconds, Pimlott 43 seconds, and Martino 46.4 seconds. And it's just all over the place with the pit stop times here, because everybody has a different amount of damage. And yeah, I think Watson actually gained a bit of time here by just not hitting early. Their pit stop times almost identical, but I think the gap has shrunk a tiny bit.
Well, you've got Jordan Watson in second place, your leader Seville, who after a crash briefly gave up the lead. Watson was crashed into by a lapped car into Hell Corner. That gave the lead back to Seville, and that's where we're at. 3.1 seconds after the pit stop. The 97 back out on top. By the way, Malcolm in the 199 does reassume the lead from Martino. Martino goes all the way back to P3. Don't know if that was a slow stop or what. They, in my math, they shouldn't have went that far back. They should have at least been P2, but they're not. Neil Pimlott in the 151 assumes P2. Martino in third place in the silver class, 3.6 back. Malcolm has a 7-second lead on Pimlott as it stands. Meanwhile, up front, this is not what you want as the leader. Seville just trying to get to the checkered flag. We're coming to get the one to go here in this race. Night Owl, season 13, race number 3 here at Bathurst. And lap traffic, not what you want, but again, the first opportunity down the Conrad straight, cars getting out of the way, that you do like to see.
And Watson actually coming up to the person who cost him the lead. So
oh boy! You don't think he remembers that, do you?
I'm fairly certain he won't ever forget that one, but just hope that there will be no retaliation. But yeah, so far these Pole Sim Sport drivers all really fair and clean drivers, so I don't think anything will happen.
No, but here's the thing. I'm not a bitter human being, but if somebody literally cost me a win and a shot at a championship, I mean, keep in mind, Watson and Seville are probably going to be just a point or two off of each other leaving today's race. It's going to be truly on. If Watson would have won this race, he would have taken a commanding lead. And if I was Watson, I'd say it'd be fair to be a little bit bitter about that, but nothing of the sort from Jordan Watson, Class Act organization over at Pole Sim Sport. And I mean, they race each other fairly, they race others fairly. I mean, what more could you really ask for? 2.9 seconds. Seville did lose a tiny bit of time in comparison, but we'll see. That should expand back out to 3 seconds, or maybe it won't with some of the traffic. They will endure the 97 clear and should not have any more. And Watson now having to navigate this. And car hits the wall in front of him, looking in the mirrors a little bit. And that's going to be just about it. The absolute wrong time to grab traffic. Unless it's a catastrophic collapse from the 97, this one's pretty much in the bag.
Yeah, and that was actually Orlich there in front of Watson that hit the wall. And yeah, Seville just gone now. And nobody else on the grid close to any other position. And we have a Phil Roberts on P8.
We sure do. Phil Roberts comes out P8. They're likely going to finish there. You would have probably been able to argue that that should have been right about where they finished, maybe even a little bit better at Watkins Glen. I hope this rights their wrongs. Well, they fought it out in practice. They fought it out in qualifying. Heck, they fought it out on the racetrack today. Jonathan Seville takes his first win of the season and wins it for Paul Simsport and ignites a championship fight. Watson comes home P2, and a brilliant one at that. What a hard fought race between those two drivers. Timothy Flamger has got all the way up into P3 and will likely finish there. Javier Marquez fourth, and Weiss will come on fifth. Meanwhile, fights back in the pack. EPEC leading Rafael Huel. Huel, who qualified way down the order, trying to take 12th here on the last lap.
And Daly almost making the pass here on Weiss in the last corner. That was really close. Seems like Weiss really lost a lot of time with these the damage that they had. 2:05 the last lap, almost 2 seconds slower than the rest. Back to Hill here. Almost went too wide into Sunset. And now going too wide into the chase. Ooh, that was really close with the curb
sketchy.
there.
It's not over yet. All over the curb. Will we see a switchback here? Huel's going to have to try and go around the outside. EPEC grabbed the curb and is just going to outrun him, but will the Porsche be better on the brakes? Defensive line from EPEC. Will Huel try to go the long way? No, he's going to try and cut off the corner and get a run down the straight. He's going to get to him, but not by him. EPEC's going to take the position, and cars sideways out of control coming to the final corner. It's Yao Manso. They're side by side. The two Lamborghinis coming through the chase.
Yeah, that was a fight with Agudelo, also for position. And just losing it a bit down the curb, and then unfortunately the contact. Are they actually teammates? Because the liveries look very similar.
I have no idea, but either way, they're not on each other's Christmas card list anymore, Stu.
Well, they do have different team names in the game. Like, rather, one doesn't have one, and the other one is GCR RPMS. Might be a in-game livery and not a custom one. But, yeah, drama there in the last lap of the race. And now we'll have a look what happened to Weiss.
Malcolm, by the way, wins the race in the silver class. Himlot second, and Martino, your third place finisher in silver. Wow, what a race that was at the mountain. Kevin Boss asked if it was a clean race. Sure, buddy, whatever you say.
I'm not sure if it was, like in terms of accidents, I think it was cleaner than Watkins Glen. But yeah, definitely more yellow flags. And the front still looked good here, so you might have been right with the crash into the pit lane. I don't think I've seen that one yet. I thought he was going to hit the right wall, but actually spun around. I mean, did he lose a position? He did, yeah. He lost
absolutely.
2 positions. He lost to Flamger and to Curtin the position. That's really unfortunate. Just somehow...
I've seen, normally, folks, what happens here is you slow down and you hit both curbs and you end up in the wall that's directly behind the race car there. You don't normally wreck into the inside wall. Very strange that happened, but excellently caught by Stewie nonetheless. Well, we've come to the final race, or the final race. We've got the final results of today's race, and we've got a deserving winner. We've got Malcolm with us, the winner in the silver class. What an absolutely chaotic race in silver today. Malcolm, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you, Jesse. It was just, I mean, I did tap the wall a few times, but more
Yeah,
just the
we
consistency.
saw everybody do that though.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just being consistent, really, as when it comes to driving the Bathurst, really.
I
Because
gotta say, where you started and you're seeing the cars that you're running a very steady race, a very nice race, and you're seeing cars go off left, right, and center. The leaders in front of you in your class, and then all of a sudden you have the potential to win this race. What's going through your mind as all of that's happening?
I mean, when you're driving along Bathurst, you have to expect it. Really, it's like you're bound to see somebody either in the back markers or even somebody who's out front, like we've seen, or like you guys have seen through the entire race. That no matter what your skill set is, someone's gonna crash, and you have to be careful who you're gonna be against.
Well, I gotta say, it was impressive nonetheless. I mean, you had Martino who went long on their pit stop as well. Were you sitting in the car doing the math, wondering, are they gonna come out in front of me? Am I gonna be having to fight them? Was that ever a consideration, or were you just focused on your own race the entire time?
I mean, I was focused on my own race to a certain degree, but I had Mike Redford with me on the voice channel of Discord. So obviously, I was asking him to keep tabs on some of the other drivers that are coming around me. But I was a bit saddened how Timelot was originally within 1 or 2 seconds ahead of me, then suddenly dropped back to within 6, 7 seconds behind me. I was kind of a bit surprised. I wasn't sure what exactly happened with them, but with Dos Ramos, or no, sorry, my apologies, Martino. I don't know what happened with them. I did think they had pace, but obviously it doesn't work out for everybody.
You ran a clean race. You ran a good race. Matthew, forgive me for not knowing. Is this your first silver class win here at RCI?
Well, this will be my second win overall, but this will be my first win in the Saturday Night Owl, as this is my first season as well.
I'll take it. First of all, welcome to Night Owl. We hope you're having fun. We're having fun watching you do it.
Yeah,
And
I mean, I was listening to you the entire race, Jesse. I was just listening to your excellent commentary.
yeah, I wouldn't use that E word when for Night Owl, but I appreciate it nonetheless. Matthew, Malcolm, anybody you want to say thanks to, hello to out there?
I mean, just hello to everybody on the grid. It was really nice racing against everybody, and I know it was unfortunate for some of you guys, but there's Valencia next week, so I hope to see you guys next week.
Absolutely the case. Matthew, Malcolm, ladies and gentlemen, your winner, first time here at Night Owl, second time in RCI. Malcolm wins it in the silver class. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, Jesse.
Well, that's an excited winner. I love winners that come in. They're very enthusiastic about. Yeah, I ran my race. I tried to do the best I could. Didn't know what was going on with some of the other cars. Quite frankly, Malcolm's absolutely right. We still don't know what happened to Martino. Why they lost quite as much time as they did on the stop. I suspected they'd be right behind Malcolm. They weren't, but just an excellent drive, Stewie.
Wasn't Martino the car that did the long pit stop, or was that no, that was Pusino, right? That probably took tires.
Pusina was the leader after the Piper crashed, and then had an incredibly long pit stop.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, I would just assume it's a lot of wall banging involved there, and just you can rack up quite a good amount of damage numbers if you just keep hitting the wall. So I would just assume it's that.
Well, it was a incredibly exciting race. We've got somebody else in the interview channel. Let's check it out. It's Night Owl anyway. It doesn't matter. Hello, caller. Nobody on the other end of the phone, I suppose. In that case. Well, as you did hear, we are going to be at Valencia next week, the newest track in ACC, and round number 4 of the championship. And it's all up for grabs between Watson, Seville, and of course now in the silver class with Malcolm winning, Stewie.
Hello.
It is
Second
literally
place in silver. Thought I'd say hello.
it is anybody's chance to win that in silver. Speaking of silver, hello. All right, some sort of communication issue going on there, but never the mind. Valencia, a brand new wild west for everybody. Stu, what do you expect?
I haven't seen a race at Valencia yet. I've done 2 or 3 races when the update came out, and I don't know if it was the track or the cars or the general new feeling of the update, but I didn't really like it. Most people that knew the track from other games or from real life races said that it's a really good track to race on, so I'm curious. It's just probably most of these guys haven't raced there yet, so I don't think we're gonna get much cleaner races well, a much cleaner race than we saw today or last week. But yeah, gonna be very interesting and new track.
A new track indeed. It is going to be one of those races where nobody knows exactly what to happen. I expect Pulse Sim Sport to be near the front at the very least. But we will see. As wild as Bathurst has been, we invite you to join us next weekend, next Saturday night, for round number 4 of Night Owl. Like, subscribe, hit the bell, do all the things before you leave this evening. We appreciate you. By the way, we're up another 100 subs in the last month or so. Absolutely incredible growth. Tell your friends, tell your mom, go wake up your dad right now and tell him about Night Owl, how incredible this race was. We appreciate all of our drivers, our staff, and everybody here that makes these races happen. And more than anything, Stewie, thanks for being the unfortunate soul that has to sit opposite me today.
I mean, I raised my hand when Ted asked if someone can
You did.
can jump in, and
It reminded me of Hunger Games when Katniss did that. It actually really, I was like, oh, he's so brave.
yeah, I thought it's been a while, especially for Night Owl, jumping back into the saddle a bit, and yeah, enjoyed it.
Well, of course, we still have the 4-hour Silverstone multi-class race. That race is on June the 3rd. Several of us here of the RCI staff are involved. Kevin Boss and myself are planning to be in the race in the GT4 class, and you have your opportunity to beat us or beat us up if that is your wish for some of the things that we've said about you in the previous races. But we also have the BMW Academy, the new Monday champ races in the GT3 car as well. All of those make up one championship, 6 races, 3 different cars. You're going to want to be there. 1-hour races, of course. Fantastic series, BMW Academy. Of course, you can sign up for all of our ongoing championships. Do your midweek sign up, do your qualifying, and be on the track this coming week. We would love to see you. Stewie, final thought.
I should have set a higher number than 10. That's all I'm going to say.
That's good hindsight. That is good hindsight. It started off incredibly simple, I would say. 2x2 through most parts of the racetrack. No major incidents, and then it all kicked off. Several big incidents, and as the tires started to wear out, some of the patience started to wear out, and we wore out the walls more than anything. It's been a fun race, but now is the time for us to say goodbye. Follow us on all relevant social media. We'll be back with you next Friday for the continuation of the Friday Champ. We'll see you next Saturday for Night Owl. And until then, have a good night.